okay. How about this one? Occupation.
Full-time dad, British Army veteran, Prince of England, Duke. But for today, I don't know. What do you want? Duke?
We go with the Duke, yeah?
Yeah.
Obviously, for today as well, because of where we are.
Okay, yeah, sure.
The inventor. Would you call yourself the inventor or?
The inventor
Of
the Invictus Games?
Yes.
Inventor. Founder?
Founder.
Founder,
That's
yeah.
probably the better word.
All right, okay,
yeah,
great.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Duke/inventor, yeah.
Do
Do you know how to spell inventor?
Prince Harry has just admitted what we all have thought for several years now, that the gentleman is unemployed. He has no apparent job. He admits this in a new podcast where he gives his occupation as full-time dad, British Army veteran, Prince of England, and Duke. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think he's any of those things in many ways, except for being a veteran. And I think some of that has been wildly overblown by Harry and his team. But that Harry is unemployed puts a very different spin on his and Meghan Markle's relationship and their future business prospects. And I'm sure puts a lot of pressure on his wife because the dude apparently can't bring in any money. So guys, we are going to get into this latest revelation after Prince Harry's disastrous tour of the UK last week. But if you haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary, so please hit that subscribe button. I would absolutely love to have you back. And before we get into today's video, let's hear from our sponsors, Cove Pure, because guys, I am obsessed with my water filtration system that they have provided. Guys, I use it every day. I have to refill it at least once a day, if not once every other day. It is the best water ever. So guys, go ahead and take a listen.
I don't take a lot of things at face value anymore, and I'll be honest, tap water was one of the last things on my radar until I actually looked into it. That's why I now purify my water with Cove Pure. Over 176 million Americans are drinking tap water with PFAS in it. They're man-made chemicals used in food packaging, non-stick cookware, and firefighting foam. Scientists call them forever chemicals because once they're in your body, they stay there. They don't break down, and they're linked to hormone disruption, immune damage, and increased cancer risk. But here's the part that stopped me cold. The EPA set legal limits on PFAS in drinking water back in 2024, but water systems have until 2031 to comply. That's a whole 5 years from now. Until that deadline arrives, a utility can be operating above the legal limit now and isn't required to notify you you're just drinking it. The EPA knows these chemicals are harmful enough to regulate, they're just not making anyone act on it yet, which means that it's on you to take matters into your own hands. And Cove Pure was engineered exactly for this. Unlike the normal pitcher filters you get from the store, their clear wave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, PFAS, heavy metals, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, filtering particles hundreds of thousands of times smaller than a single human hair. And it really does taste better. I have gotten to enjoy my Cove Pure a little bit, and I am just absolutely loving it. The water genuinely tastes better. It tastes fresher. And of course, you have not only cold water, but hot water, warm water, tap water that you can use in this system, which I think is so helpful to fit whatever needs that you have for your water. And the best part about Cove Pure is they make it so easy. It sits right on your countertop. You don't have to drill any holes or call a plumber. You just plug it in. Yes, it really is that easy. Don't wait for 2031. Take control of your water quality right now. Head to covepure.com/royal and you'll get $250 off for a limited time. That's Cove Pure, COVEPURE.com/royal.
Well, thank you so much, Cove Pure, for sponsoring today's video, guys. Again, I'm obsessed. I absolutely love it. I love drinking as much water as humanly possible. My only stipulation is that this holds 30 ounces, and if I could fill it to like 28 or something, that would be awesome. But that's a little tricky, but again, this is my favorite thing. I love drinking as much water as I can because water helps you so much. It helps your mind. It helps your mental fortitude. And I feel like Harry needs a lot of help when it comes to his mental energy here. This little bit, it's like, it's so incredibly cringe on multiple levels. So go ahead and take a listen to a little bit of the podcast here, and we'll go on from there. So he asks Harry, "What is your occupation, kind sir?" He doesn't say kind sir. We're just being a little bit dramatic here.
Occupation.
Full-time dad, British Army veteran, Prince of England, Duke. But
oh my gosh, guys, it's so short, but there is so much to unpack there. So almost let's take this at each individual little occupation that the man gives himself. Number one, he gives himself is full-time dad, which is a bit of a misnomer as him and his wife have nannies, and Harry travels quite a bit without his family. So how can you be a full-time dad if you're not actually full-time at home? You can't do those things. And so that's obviously just a lie. Now he could be saying in many ways, well, I'm a dad. That's like my occupation, and like a full-time stay-at-home mom. But again, we just know that that's not really the case, but it does frame Harry and Meghan's relationship in a bit of a different way. And it's something that I have speculated about, which is that Harry has basically given up on having any sort of actual professional job. He's given up on it. He has failed massively on multiple levels. His Heart of Invictus documentary, which I'm sure he put his heart and soul into, flopped massively with Netflix. And what's sort of sad is that there was a framework of a potentially good story there. Harry's just not a good storyteller. And he kind of had this sort of arrogant attitude at the beginning of the documentary, like, again, talking about himself. Actually, you know what? Let's look at this up real quick. This was back in 2024. And just as a little bit of note, I actually got 400,000 views for my reaction to Harry's Invictus Games documentary, and I think he got 100,000 overall views, according to Netflix's own record. So I outpaced him quite a bit. But let me look at it, because I want to say he said something similar then too. But let me look. So it was also a time he gave his occupation. So this is going to take me a second. I have to find it on my telephono. And it has to be my personal telephone because that was the only phone I had at the time. So let's go ahead. And this would have been back in August of 2023, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, I see it right here.
My name's Harry.
What do you do, Harry?
What do I do? I'm a dad of 2 under 3-year-olds. I got a couple of dogs, a husband. I'm founding patron of Invictus Games Foundation. There's lots of hats that one wears.
So he starts off with like, what do you do? Well, I'm a dad of 2, which is fine. Like, sort of acknowledging that the parenting role doesn't fully fall on him, but saying he's a full-time dad implies that the parenting role fully falls on him. But again, he travels quite a bit. I would argue that he travels at least once a month for a couple of days doing various patronages. And so obviously he is not at home full-time raising the kids. So who is? We know it's not Meghan. It's the nannies. The nannies are the ones actually, I'm sure, raising their children. I'm sure they have at least 2. They've claimed 1. I'm sure there is more than 1 because Meghan does not strike me as particularly maternal. And while Harry, I think, enjoys being a dad, I'm sure Meghan enjoys being a mom to a certain extent, neither one of them strike me as really being hands-on parents. They seem to be more fair weather parents, if you know what I mean. Like, they enjoy the kids when the kids are fun, but they don't really want to take the responsibility for a child acting up. In fact, when Meghan Markle and Harry were still working royals, I was sort of looking forward to Archie getting a bit older, like 2 and 3, and seeing what would happen if he had a meltdown in public, because I don't think Meghan or Harry would handle it as well as Catherine did on the tarmac in Germany when Charlotte was starting to have a little bit of a mini meltdown. Catherine was able to deal with it very effectively. She dealt effectively with Louis' little outbursts there during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. So Catherine and William strike me as highly hands-on engaged parents. They use the nanny the way the nanny is supposed to be used, which is to help smooth out times when the parents need to do work, when the kids, let's say, need an alternative person to pick them up from a practice because the parents are busy working or what have you. So I think Catherine and William use the nanny the way the nanny is supposed to be used, is to augment aspects of the parenting duty because they work, rather than taking on the full-time burden of parenting that a lot of celebrities push their nannies to do. A lot of celebrities are like, you know, I love having kids, but the nannies are the ones actually raising the children, which ends up usually in kind of spoiled children because the nannies can't fully enact discipline. The parents don't really discipline because they're not engaged in parenting. You get what I mean. But in the frame of his relationship with Meghan Markle, this actually puts a huge amount of pressure and burden on her, because in this particular instance, if Harry is a full-time father, that is the role he claims, then on the flip side, Meghan Markle would then be the full-time worker. And Meghan does have a lot of plates spinning, but nothing that's doing particularly well, especially As Ever. A lot of their money or potential money is tied up in As Ever. As I've explained before, but I always think it's worthwhile to explain again, just because some people in the audience may not have heard this before. But Harry and Meghan were obviously promised a huge chunk of money from Netflix. They got part of that money. Part of that money was tied up in production costs. And then a good chunk, I would argue at least 30%. Again, this isn't just my theory, but it's been kind of supported by reporting in Variety. 20% at least, 30%, 33%, a third of it. We're bad at our mathematics today. A third of it is wrapped up in developing As Ever as a company. So a huge chunk of that money was put into inventory, I'm sure. And so Meghan can't siphon out that money until she sells her inventory, which is kind of why she refuses to do real sales in As Ever, is because she's desperate to try to recoup that money to get as much money out of the company as possible. However, because of how everything is structured, she's just not going to get that much money.
The mask has finally slipped, and Prince Harry has just admitted what the rest of the world has suspected for years. The man is completely unemployed. During a recent podcast appearance, when asked a direct question about his current occupation, the Duke of Sussex stumbled, hesitated, and offered a laundry list of identities rather than an actual career. He claimed his profession is that of a full-time dad, a British Army veteran, a Prince of England, and a Duke. But let's look past the grand titles and the carefully managed public relations for a moment, because what we are witnessing is the public unraveling of a man who left the only institution that gave him purpose, only to realize he has absolutely no idea how to survive in the real world. Welcome back to the channel, where we pull back the curtain on the world's most high-profile public figures to analyze the underlying mechanics of power, prestige, and public perception. If you are fascinated by the shifting dynamics of the modern monarchy and the psychological realities of life outside the palace gates, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. We track these developments as they happen, and you won't want to miss our upcoming deep dives into the true financial state of the Sussex Empire. When you dissect Harry's self-proclaimed list of occupations, the illusion begins to shatter almost instantly. To claim the title of a full-time dad,
It is absolutely a competition. It's absolutely a competition.
reveals itself as a convenient narrative shield. The reality of the situation is that the Sussex household operates including multiple nannies, while Harry himself maintains a grueling monthly travel schedule for various international countries. It raises a glaring contradiction. How can one claim the daily, full-time labor of raising children when the infrastructure of wealth is doing the heavy lifting behind closed doors? This isn't just about semantics. It is a calculated attempt to rebrand a lack of professional momentum into a heartwarming lifestyle choice. The truth is much heavier. Harry appears to have completely given up on establishing a legitimate, independent professional career. Every single major commercial venture the couple has launched since their dramatic exit from the royal family has faced severe friction. Take his passion project, the Heart of Invictus documentary on Netflix, a production that should have been a crowning achievement for his philanthropic brand. Instead, it underperformed drastically, struggling to capture the mainstream cultural footprint they desperately needed. There was a compelling foundational story within that project, but the execution suffered under an approach that always seems to recenter the narrative around Harry's personal grievances rather than the global cause itself. Interestingly, this pattern of using fatherhood as a professional placeholder isn't entirely new. If we look back to his media appearances from a few years ago, Harry was asked a similar question about his daily role, giving a remarkably similar answer about being a husband, a a father, and a patron. But back then, the global market was still buying into the potential of the Sussex brand. Today, the novelty has worn off, and the continuous reliance on the same vague talking points suggests a deeper, more permanent stagnation. This total absence of a traditional revenue-generating role puts an extraordinary, unseen pressure on Meghan Markle. In any modern partnership, if one individual steps away from the commercial battlefield entirely, the burden of sustaining the empire falls squarely on the other. Meghan has numerous plates spinning simultaneously, from lifestyle brands to production deals. But almost all of these ventures seem perpetually trapped in the agonizing limbo of development hell. The massive, highly publicized financial windfalls promised by major streaming platforms were never just free payouts. They were intricately structured deals heavily tied to production costs, delivery milestones, and corporate overhead. A massive portion of their projected capital remains tied up in the back-end infrastructure of their new business developments, particularly in moving physical inventory and securing global distribution. Until those products actually move in the open market, that capital is effectively frozen. This creates a fascinating paradox. While the couple must maintain the hyper-luxurious, ultra-exclusive aesthetic required of global celebrities, the actual liquid revenue streams to support that lifestyle are tightened. They are trapped in a high-stakes waiting game, relying on the hope that a future project, perhaps an upcoming documentary tied to royal history, will finally ignite the massive commercial breakthrough they need to stabilize their balance sheet.